Hi everyone, it's Rachel back with the Shades of Orange, and I'm here to do another round of recent reads. This time I'm talking about mysteries, thrillers, and horror. Good variety here, which they say is the spice of life. Hopefully there is something that will catch your interest and you'll find a recommendation. All that being said, let's get into the books. First, let's start with the mystery, and I read The Chestnut Man, which is a detective story that is translated that follows a couple of different perspectives, but primarily it's surrounding the mystery of a serial killer who is going around and he is placing a little chestnut man on the bodies of his victims. And this is a story that, again, is told from the perspective of the detectives that are trying to track down who this man is, and it's a very complicated, long mystery that I think is very well plotted. It is over 500 pages, and for me it was a little bit long, but the ending was very good. It really pulled all the plot points together into a very satisfying story, and so overall I would recommend it. But if you're going into this one, you need to know it is very grisly. It is that Scandinavian mystery thriller genre that is so known for being very brutal and bloody. So lots of content warnings, definitely gruesome descriptions of the deaths and what the serial killer does to his victims. Some actually very scary scenes that I normally would expect to see more in horror rather than a mystery. But for the most part, this one is slower paced. Other than a few scenes with action, it is a slow burning mystery. It's one that you have to be patient and go along with it. So I'd primarily recommend it to people that like mysteries, particularly police procedurals. But if you're looking for one and you're looking for a really good one, again, a really well plotted one, then I definitely recommend checking this one out, as long as you're okay, again, with a really gruesome, bloody story. Next, we have Blacktop Wasteland by S.A. Cosby, and this is a straight-up thriller that follows a man that used to be a getaway driver, but he has gone straight and now has a family and is trying to avoid his criminal past when he gets an offer for a heist job that seems too good to be true, and he ends up saying yes to it because he really needs the money, and as you would expect, things go terribly wrong. This, as I say, is a thriller in the way that it is an action-packed story that basically reads like an action movie, and that is both my compliment and complaint with this book, is that it reads like a genre of movies that I don't personally enjoy watching, and so I don't really enjoy reading them. The story itself is very predictable. I've seen it so many times before where it's like the criminal that's trying to be good, and while I was somewhat pulled in by the fact that he is a father and you get these nice emotional scenes where he really is trying to do the right thing for his family, the rest of the story was, like I said, just stories I have seen before and really didn't bring anything new to the genre. The author does some nice commentary on what it's like to be a Black person in America, but as for the plot itself, it was really average, and honestly, I could have DNF'd it. I was pretty bored reading it, but I pushed through and finished it so I could review it for you all. Next, we have The Shuddering by Ania Ahlborn, which follows a group of young people that go off to vacation in the winter time in a remote cabin. And little do they know that there is something out there, some kind of creature that is possibly coming for them. Now, the creature itself I really liked. It starts out very ambiguous at the beginning, and it's just this wintry thing. And I liked before we got to see what it was, because I found the idea of the unknown and the suspense far more exciting and scary than what it actually turned out to be. But in terms of story, this one, once again, is a story that reads like a movie, particularly a cheesy horror slasher. Yes, it's technically creature horror, but it follows the tropes of the genre where you have a bunch of young people that have complicated pasts and relationships with each other, and they are going off to this place, and one by one they're getting knocked down. And the characters themselves were really unlikable. I'm not sure if that was intentional or not, but I was really happy when they started to die, let me just say, because I really did not like them. And again, that kind of goes with the genre. So in terms of a story, it was very easy to get into. I flew through it. Often with Ania Ahlborn, I'll complain that her stories lack plot. This one really was quite the opposite. If anything, I think it was all plot and the characters were perhaps the weaker part of the story. So this one actually might appeal most to people that don't necessarily always like her work. I thought it was fun, a little bit forgettable, but at the time it was an enjoyable read, and it's quite short, so I just flew through it in a day or two. So again, recommend it if that sounds like a lot of fun. Next we have Ararat by Christopher Golden, which follows a couple that are mountaineering in Turkey, and they come across a abandoned ship on the mountainside that appears to be Noah's Ark. So of course they go and call in the experts who go in to investigate. Within this ark or ship, they find a tomb, and within that tomb they find a deformed body of a creature with horns on it, and the story goes from there. Now, this was just a really fun story to read. It gave me vibes of Indiana Jones and also the Mummy movies, and I really liked the archaeological piece to the story. I think it's something that I would like to read more of in horror if you can give me recommendations. And I also like, without giving away too much, that there is a little bit of a demon aspect to this, which is not, again, something I find enough in my horror books, surprisingly. So you know that this creature has horns, and people potentially start to act differently once they are exposed to this tomb. And this story just has a lot of elements I really like. I'm afraid to give away too much of the plot, but if you're looking for a really engaging story, one that is a page turner that you will fly through, this is that. And it basically left me just wanting to binge through all of my favorite archaeological movies, which I still need to do. I also read The Survival of Molly Southbourne by Tade Thompson, which is a follow-up novella to a book I have previously read. I'm going to keep this spoiler-free for the second book. Essentially, this story follows a young girl named Molly Southbourne that every time she bleeds, another copy of herself is made, and that copy tries to kill her. It's a really weird piece of horror, and I'll say that the first book was weird, and I did not like it as much as other reviewers did. I liked it, but I didn't love it. And I think a lot of that came from the fact that in terms of tone, it was a very grim or depressing story. But I was interested enough that I did want to finish out the duology with this one. And I'll say that I thought the second book was much stronger. It has a different tone. Again, it's much more about survival. And I really liked Molly in this one. I found her to be much more confident. And yeah, I like where the story went, but I'm going to keep that vague for those of you that haven't read the first book. Definitely recommend that if you're going to read it, continue on and read the sequel. Well worth it. Finally, I want to talk about a piece of middle grade horror, and that is Thornhill by Pam Smy. This is told over two perspectives, one being the 1980s, where we follow a girl in the foster care program. Another girl that was living with her before has come back, and she is very upset about this because this other girl has been bullying her. And then we also have a perspective told only in pictures in the present day, and this girl is investigating what happened to the manor house where the foster care program was happening. This book is just very unique. I've never seen a dual perspective where one perspective was simply done in pictures, but it conveys the story so well. I always knew what was going on, or at least as much as the author was trying to tell me at that point in time. The story back in the 80s was perhaps very familiar. I've read a lot of these orphan stories where you have the young girl that is being bullied, and I like that it plays with the trope of mean girl, something I just love seeing in books. And it was just eerily creepy. Again, this is middle grade, but I don't want to underplay it because I found this book to be very unsettling. I didn't know where it was going. And again, without giving away the ending, I'll just say that it was actually really dark and kind of more disturbing to read as an adult, considering the fact that this book is intended for a younger audience. And I would actually be reluctant to give this to a younger reader because there is some pretty dark subject matter in this book. So I would actually recommend it. It's incredibly short. I don't want to give away more of it, but if you're open to middle grade, if you're an adult reader that wants to try it out, this is a good one to go with. Again, a short read, you will fly through it, and it definitely left an impression on me. I'm still thinking about it, which always says a lot because I read a lot of books. So that's it for this video. If you have any suggestions for other middle grade horror books I should read, I would love to hear them down below, or tell me of the books I talked about here, which ones are you planning on reading? If you're new to my channel, you can consider subscribing. I do read a lot of horror, thrillers, science fiction, and fantasy, and you can still help me out by giving this video a thumbs up, sharing it around online, and you can hit that notification bell so that you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you soon. Okay, bye-bye.